Okay, one of the reasons that there is the line on your hydro bill that says debt retirement charge is because we have built a lot of nuclear power plants in this province, and we had to pay for them, and we have to apparently retire the debt. What's the debt at nowadays? 35 billion or something like that?
13 billion.
13 billion now?
Yeah.
13 billion.
Stranded
It's
debt.
come down a lot. Okay.
It's come down from 20.
All right.
But that's not what the DRC is addressing.
No,
But we'll get
it's
to
about
that.
residuals.
But it is the nuclear
Then
debt
let's-
retirement chart. Let's face it, that's what we're
Okay,
talking
maybe I
about.
shouldn't have
It's not all
described that.
nuclear. It's from
Let's
transmission.
Ernie Eves,
stand by. Guys, let's go around the table here. Brad Dogood, the debt retirement charge. It's on the hydro bill. How come?
Well, I wish it wouldn't have to be there, but in 2003, we inherited an energy system that had $20,000 in stranded debt. We've paid down about $1 billion a year since we've been in office. The stranded debt now stands at about $13 billion.
You said 20,000, you meant 20 billion.
20 billion.
20 billion. Okay.
It'll now, I think it's estimated around 2016, 2017 or so, depending on interest rates, that debt will be defeased, which means that will come off the bills. But we can't wish it away, and I think that's what Tim Hudak wants to do. He just wants to pretend it doesn't exist. The Auditor General for the province, the provincial auditor, has confirmed what the debt is. It's there, it exists. We wish it wasn't there, but you can't walk into your bank and say, I think I paid enough, so I'm not going to pay anymore and keep your house. It's the same thing here. We need to be responsible, and we need to pay this debt down. There's no way around it.
Well, there is a way around it. The Conservatives have offered a way around it.
Yep,
What's your
it's
idea?
gone.
Well, first of all, the Liberals are completely misleading about what the stranded debt and how it's been parceled. The residual stranded debt, and that is right in the books of the Ontario Electricity Finance Corporation, and Brad, you know that, and you should be straight about it. $7.8 billion was the amount of the debt, the residual stranded debt, that was going to be the responsibility of the electricity consumer. Since 2002, when they started paying, they have paid over $10 billion towards that residual stranded debt. The consumer has paid their share. That's how it was split up. 13.1 to the utilities and 7.8 to the consumer.
So why are we still paying it?
That's what people have asked us. Why are we still paying it? Well, a Tim Hudak government is going to ensure that you get the relief that you deserve,
Okay, but having
because you've
said that-
already paid it.
Okay, John.
You've paid your share.
But having said
Proof it's
that,
gone.
where does the debt is still there? So how do you pay it
The
off?
stranded debt belongs to the utilities. The consumer has paid their share. The consumer that is struggling, as Steve said, talking about that
Okay,
senior
but
citizen who
how does
cannot
this
pay
debt-
their bill.
How does it disappear?
The stranded debt is the responsibility of the utilities,
So it's up to them.
not the consumer. And that's who will have to pay it.
Just reckless. That's reckless.
Peter?
It's just
That's
reckless.
extraordinary. First of all, let's be very clear. The bulk of this is from our nuclear investments in previous decades. That's where that debt came from. Mike Harris wanted to sell off the nuclear fleet. It was not producing enough power to pay for itself, so it needed this huge subsidy. Debts incur interest. That debt has been incurring interest. That's why if you buy a house, you know that your principal and your interest are two very different numbers. And frankly, at the beginning of
the
this
interest rates
decade,
we've had since 2003, it's paid.
And at the beginning of this decade, the Eves government borrowed money, which was added onto that debt, to keep electricity prices flat. Not a responsible approach. So we are stuck with a nuclear debt, on top of which was put this keep people happy debt. And that's why we still have a large amount of money that is going to have to be paid off because we're stuck with it.
So the reality is, it's there and you got to live with it. Well,
Right.
these guys will go to the. You'll borrow $1 billion to help get rid of it, right? That's part of your $1.6 billion.
It is part of our platform that has been completely costed. Even Brad's own aide on a conference call the other night that was intercepted has said that they've invented the whole thing about our platform.
We're not sure whether any of that was legit, but anyway, let's move on. Steve Dick, let me hear from Steve Dick on
All I
this.
can say is, for a business guy, a party who's a bunch of business people, you definitely don't understand how interest works. And when you have debt,
I don't
you
need a
experience
business lesson from you, Steve.
Well, obviously you do, because this is not working. Ontario is going to have to pay off this debt some way, and it's not. You can put it on our income tax. If you want to raise our income taxes,
it's not going to be on the hydro
doesn't
bill.
make any sense to
It's
me.
not going to be on the hydro bill.
Presumably, if the money. Let me just make sure everybody understands this here, our viewers in particular. If we owe the money,
Yes.
either the electricity users are going to pay it back, or the taxpayers are going to pay it back.
That's right.
You guys are saying the taxpayers should.
We are saying the
Everybody else
consumer
is saying.
has paid their share of this residual stranded debt,
But the money still has
based
to
on
be
the
paid back.
numbers from the Ontario Electricity Finance Corporation, of which the auditor has confirmed.
Steve.
So we're going to take this debt off of our electrical bill, and we're going to put it, on our income taxes. Now, that doesn't fit with your general policy of raising income taxes, does it?
We're not raising income
We're-
taxes, Steve.
Well, apparently you will.
Stand by.
'cause
Let's just, Steve, finish your point.
apparently you will, because there's no way that you can
No,
retire this
there's
debt.
one party that raises taxes, Steve. That's the Liberal
Okay,
Party.
hang on. I
They've
haven't
made
heard
those
Steve Applin
promises
yet.
over and over
We've
again.
been, the DRC, John's right, the DRC has been paid off. We've been paying the non-utility generators, going back to the global adjustment. The non-utility generators, mostly natural gas, were recipients of DRC revenue up until just a little while ago, according to the IESO. So we basically have been paying that. But we really are talking about 0.7 cents per kilowatt hour, not all that much. And I can't think of a charge on a bill that's more calculated to inflame five guys like us than debt retirement charge. If it's all about nuclear, call it the climate change contribution. It's
So
paying
change-
for 28 billion
Change the name of it.
carbon-free kilowatt hours of power every year.
Call
And
it
call it
the
the climate
nuclear
change
debt retirement charge.
Call it the climate change contribution, and nobody will
You know,
complain about
whatever
it.
you call it, you can't deny the debt's there. You got to pay it. And you know what, John? I'm sorry. I'm not going to take your word over the provincial auditor general. Forget about all the political parties' views here and all the differing of opinion. We're in an election campaign. I got to go to the auditor general.
Talk about
and
the
say,
residual
what-
stranded
what
debt,
does our
Brad.
provincial
Stick
auditor
to the
say
subject,
here?
residual
What the provincial
stranded
auditor
debt.
says is there is a debt. It's sitting around $13 billion, and you can't ignore it. By you ignoring it, that's contributing to the
Absolutely
$14
not,
billion
Brad.
gap
We are
in your,
taking
in
it
your
off
platform.
the consumer's bill.
And
the
that's
seniors,
Okay,
that's why
gentlemen.
your
the
platform
families,
doesn't
the
add
small
up.
Gentlemen.
business that you've hammered
It's
for the last
reckless,
7
John.
years.
Can't hear you when you both talk at the same
Absolutely
time. The
reckless.
reality is, as I look at this hydro bill, it works out to, I think, about 5% of the hydro bill. It's not a huge amount of money as you look at it, right? Is it worth
$5 every 2 months.
$5 every 2 months?
$5
But
every 2 months.
that's only
and-
what's on the bill.
You-
There's
you wanna
also,
pay-
excuse me, Steve, there's also the money that is being paid from the utilities into general revenue to pay the rest of the debt. This is only part of it, Steve. We're paying about $2.5 billion a year. That's a lot of
You wanna
money.
pay
Last word in
13
this
cents, 13.5 cents for wind power, which is unreliable. And we're quibbling here about 0.7 cents for nuclear, which delivers the goods.
Okay.